Hey everybody, welcome into the back room. I'm Andy Ostroy. We have comic and storyteller Ophira Eisenberg with us today. We'll chat with her in just a second. But first, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you listening, and we'd love to hear your comments. So email us at backroomandy@gmail.com and or post on our social media, and we'll read some feedback next time. And if you like the podcast, please rate and review and follow or subscribe, and you'll be notified every time we post a new episode. So, Ophira Eisenberg is a stand-up comedian, writer, and host of the award-winning comedy podcast, Parenting is a Joke. She also regularly hosts and tours with the Peabody Award-winning radio show and podcast, The Moth Radio Hour. She also hosted NPR's Ask Me Another for 9 years, where she interviewed and played silly games with hundreds of celebrities, including Sir Patrick Stewart, Rosie Perez, Yo-Yo Ma, Roxanne Gay, Nick Kroll, Chelsea Handler, and others. She's appeared multiple times on CBS's The Late Late Show, Sherri with Sherri Sheppard, Comedy Central, HBO, the New York Festival, and is a regular on the Moth Radio Hour. Her stories are included in 3 of the Moth's best-selling collections. Her memoir, Screw Everyone, Sleeping My Way to Monogamy, was optioned for a TV series, and her recent comedy special, Plant-Based Jokes, is streaming on YouTube. She's a regular at the Comedy Cellar and other New York clubs, and her solo show, Leaving a Mark, a comedy about scars, made its Off-Broadway review to rave reviews and won the Women in the Arts and Media Award for solo show scripts. She will be recording her new 1-hour comedy special at the Comedy Cellar in New York on Sunday, November 9th. Ophira, welcome into the back room.
Thanks, Andy. How are you?
I'm great. So, Ophira, it's such a beautiful name. What is the origin of that? Who are your people?
I know, isn't it? It's so vague that I feel whenever I mean, my name is the bane of my existence in some ways, because people hear it and we're all desperate to find, we're all desperate to find like some sort of ethnic situation with it. We're just like, what does that have to do with anything? What is, she looks white. How can she have the name Ophira? I mean, I really feel like the desperate need in people's eyes to categorize me. And then I say it's Hebrew. Not good enough, Andy. Not good enough. Because then they just go Hebrew. Eisenberg, they get it all. But Ophira is still vague. And so it is Hebrew, but it's super old. And I've always said it's super old name that, kind of like a Eunice or a Mabel, like one that has not made its way back around. But then I double checked, how old is my name? Because I would say page 4 of the Bible. And I double checked, no. Genesis 10:29.
That's what I was going to go with. Actually, I was going to go with Genesis 10:28, but you went with the revised edition, so I did. I went with the 1989 version. It goes roughly, I was looking, like if you were just to take away a bunch of the other begots, it goes God, Adam, Eve, Ophira. Really?
Noah.
He was the guy with the ark, right?
Yeah. I guess I didn't get invited on.
Oh.
Because we don't hear about me later.
Hey, where's my invite to the... I got 2 dogs here. What's going on? I would have said Ophira is Greek. It seems like Greek mythology.
Yes. Well, because you want to go Ophelia, maybe?
Yeah, that's what I was... Yeah, that's true.
Oh, and I've even had people... This is amazing. You don't get this, Andy, because you have a name that is within, the Scottish vernacular. But I get people... I say my name's Ophira, and they say to me, this has happened twice, do you mean Ophelia? And I'm like, oh, thank you. I always forget my own name. Thank you so much for the correction. What?
Don't you hate when people do shit like that?
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
It's amazing.
It is truly amazing. It makes. What do you think it is about people like that make them think I should do that?
I should just.
I know more about her name than she does.
Yeah, I'm going to name-splain. I don't even think that's a word.
Wow, you just coined an amazing new phrase.
Name-splain? To name-splain.
Yeah.
I think it just goes back to fear of the unknown. Anything.
And wanting to be smarter than everyone. Let's face it.
Yeah, and that comfortable labels, to go a long way.
All right.
I'll just make you who I want you to be.
Here you go. All right. So it's all about control.
Yes.
And narcissism.
Yes.
Oh, God, we're so screwed.
We are screwed.
Tell me about your childhood. Who are your people? Who are your people?
Who are your people? I was raised in Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Wow. Oh, so you must love Trump.
Oh, they love Trump over there.
Sure.
Yeah. I didn't actually, I was just there. I was just there visiting some family. And now that I have perspective, I did not realize, listen, when I grew up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, I was looking for something else. For sure. I was looking for, I don't know, any other person with brunette hair. I mean, seriously, I was different with dark hair.
Are they all blonde up there? Really?
They're very, very Scottish, very Germanic, Dutch, Swedish, Norway. Yeah, it's very, very blonde.
Very Aryan.
Very flaxen, like flaxen blonde. And then there is an immigrant population, but they are certainly on the fringes, even geographically, to this day. And my Calgarians will be a little mad when I say this because there are some great people there, but there is a level of, I would say, like, I don't know, racism, but like 1980s style racism, which is like when nobody thought it was bad, the white people didn't have any perspective or something. That is just fine there. That I was like, oh my God, how is this happening? Wild. And I mean, and I will say not just racism, definitely sexism, because, just to really pare it down, it's based on an economy. It's a oil and gas resource-based economy. And with that comes a certain kind of dude, I think. And here's the ambulances of Brooklyn, in case you want to know where I am. And
is it the Hebrew ambulance?
It's the Hebrew ambulance.
Do they pick up non-Jews? Do you know if they pick up non-Jews?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
That would be terrible if they don't.
My guess is no. And I say that as a Jew.
Yeah, just make it expensive. Come on. Help everyone, but charge whatever price you want.
Here's the real question. Do they pick up Reform Jews?
Right, exactly. How Jewish are you? I would get away with it, Andy, because my haircut looks like a shadle currently. So they would mistake me for an Orthodox.
There is a little orthodoxy going on up there in your hair.
It is.
That's not a critique, a bad critique.
No,
it's just
I know.
Just a casual observation.
Yeah, I'm a code switcher. I got to fit in Brooklyn in every corner. But anyways, growing up, it was a lovely, safe place to live, I suppose. I did feel different than everybody else. Ophira stuck out like a sore thumb. I wanted to be a Sarah or a Tracy, Sarah without an H. And I did not know Sarahs with H's for a long time.
Is there a difference?
Usually the Sarah with the H is Jewish.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So, and then, the alternative or whatever you consider not mainstream world of going to see music, like when I was a teenager or clubs or just whatever that was, it goes on the far end of the spectrum. So you just get weirder. Like whatever is on the fringe is weirder. Even, I think I saw experimental dance and art in Calgary growing up that was so much weirder than almost anything I've seen in New York. Because when you have so much to push against, you push harder. Right. There was just nothing in the middle.
Go big or don't go at all, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was just kind of mainstream world or like truly out there.
And so what were you like as a kid in terms of, the things you became as an adult? Were you a funny kid? Were you a storyteller?
I was a little bit of a storyteller, youngest of six. So that just lays all that psychological groundwork. And then, my family liked telling jokes. Mostly, there was a lot of sarcasm and kind of biting criticism in the form of jokes.
I'm just curious, what are their names? Your siblings?
They are Ellie, Elon, Orna, Abigail, Amir, Ophira.
That's like a Hasidic mob. Seriously.
Yeah, seems scary, doesn't it?
They should have their own ambulance.
It is the largest law firm you have ever heard from.
Wow. So, those are some amazing names.
Right? I know. And I used to get paid $1 to say them. So
Wow.
you just got it for free.
And what about creativity in your family? Are you the only
Super
one?
creative. No, super creative. But none of them, let me think about that. None of them. One of them pursued it as a profession. But actually, like everyone in my family, very visually creative in a way that I'm not. I can't paint. I can't draw. That's not my thing. But my older brothers and one of my sisters just like innately talented, painting, drawing, sculpture, building, just like, so one of them became a financial planner, went into business. The oldest, that whole thing, like you got to make money, did go to art school, had art that he made in college in his home that you would just be blown away by, these beautiful ceramic walls that he would make of, Phoenix rising from the ashes, just all this based on mythology. Clearly would have been a very talented artist, but there was pressure to make $1.
What? In a Jewish family?
I know. And that guy was born in Israel, but it wasn't even Israel yet. It was Palestine, because he was born in the late 40s. It's crazy.
We're getting political
Everything
now,
I say
aren't we?
sounds
We're going
crazy.
political.
That's as political as I get. There was a time in the past. That's my politics. Guess what, everybody? History. I know it's hard to think about.
I know. And what about your parents? What were they like?
My parents, so much older, right? It's like I was raised by what most people would identify as their grandparents, just from an age. So very traditional, way older. Obviously, both grew up. My father fought in World War II for the British. My mother was a teenager during World War II in war-torn Holland, as she would always say. Wow. And now I think a lot of the humor we had in our family, which was super dark, a lot of dark stories that we would laugh at. Like my mother actually, was not raised Jewish. She was raised Catholic and went to a school of nuns and hated the nuns. And then one day during World War II, this was near the beginning of it, so people still went to school and stuff. It's before the Nazis occupied Holland. She stayed home from school because her mom was sick and she was the oldest and needed help with the younger children. And that day, the Americans bombed her school, bombed the whole town of Nijmegen because it was next to the German border, and they were trying to bomb this bridge so the Nazis wouldn't advance, but they weren't perfect, and they bombed all of Nijmegen. Everyone in her school died except for her, because she was at home.
That's crazy.
And then she used to tell the story, because we used to make her tell the story, that she hated the nuns that ran the school. One of them was super mean to her.
So wait, so you literally are here because your mother cut school on the most fateful day in Holland.
Yes.
Ever. That's a great story. Have you told that story?
That she cut school and that's why I'm here?
This whole story.
I've never thought of this.
This is incredible.
I've told portions of the story, but I have actually never just made that little connection. So thank you.
You're welcome.
That's going in. But yeah, so then so when the nuns were mean to you, the punishment was, I guess the floors were covered in like sawdust. Do you remember actually, to a quick tangent, do you remember in your elementary school or whatever that the janitors would at the end of the day brush sawdust up and down the halls?
I can't say that we had that experience.
I remember this.
What kind of school did you go to?
Someone
I remember that in bars, though.
Right. Exactly. For puke.
Exactly.
That's what you're doing, right? Okay. So for whatever reason, the floors, I don't know if it was ground underneath this. We're talking like, what are we talking? Like 1936 or something? Okay. So they would make
That's probably before they invented wood floor polish.
Right.
I'm just guessing.
Or just everyone would like pour cement on everything, I guess. So if you were caught talking or fooling around or whatever, they had uniforms, and supposedly you had to pull down your knee socks, and you had bare legs except for your knee socks, because all the girls are of course in skirts or dresses, and then you would have to kneel on the ground, which was gravelly and sawdusty.
Jesus.
And it would be extremely painful. That was your punishment for talking.
Just for girls, or boys had to?
Don't know about the boys because it was an all-girls school. Don't know what happened to the boys.
God, you just reminded me of something. In second grade, our teacher, when we would misbehave, would put us under her desk.
What?
And I can close my eyes and remember that view as if it was yesterday. Isn't that weird?
How many times were you under there?
A lot. I would purposely misbehave.
Just because you wanted to get
I was in
into
second
the
grade,
fort.
but I wasn't dead. I was like, get me under that desk again.
You mean I just get to hang out in a little tent?
It was crazy. Is that a crazy, like, imagine doing that today? Imagine like a
million
female teacher
calls.
putting a young boy under her desk. Wow.
Yeah.
Times have changed. Times have changed.
And would she sit there at the desk?
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
I saw right up
Slacks?
her fucking dress.
Oh, wow.
Crazy.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot going on
where
there.
the stockings ended. Yeah. There's a whole lot going on there.
Where the stockings ended?
I saw where the stockings ended. That's how great a view I had, or disturbing a view I had.
Now, isn't it kind of amazing when you find stockings end? Like on one level, you're like, do they ever end? But early on, you were like,
it was when I was
everybody. 7. They end.
When I was 7, that was the whole thing was a new landscape. I was like, what is happening up here? Wow. What is that? Like, that was like that was educational. I was in class.
That was educational.
I was in class, except under my teacher's desk.
Trust me, this is math. I am learning math.
You know, I wonder if I've never brought that up with a therapist, but I wonder, but if I did.
Don't bother. Oh my God, do you know how much money that memory is going to cost you?
Oh, God.
Put that aside.
But it might explain everything.
What? Everything? That's the doorway in?
That's the gateway to my adult health. All right, so tell me about when you first started doing comedy. How did you get your start?
I finished my very promising degree from McGill University, not to make all of your listeners feel lesser, but there you go. Cultural anthropology with a minor in, actually it was a double major because that's the only way McGill would let you do 2 things. You had to do an honors double major. So I did cultural anthropology and theater, but it was not acting
so you went
theater.
for the high income generating degrees.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, what are the 2
How did your parents let you get away with that?
Here? Youngest is 6. Everyone was just like, I was not.
You just slipped under the radar with that.
I slipped under the radar. I paid for it myself. Like no one could get in the way. Mm-hmm. I learned very early on that if I just paid for what I wanted to do, then there was no discussion.
Right. Well, that's right. She who signs the check calls the shots.
So
right?
I took a year off after high school. I took a year off and went traveling alone to Australia and New Zealand and was petrified the whole time. Like I love the idea of it. But even at 17, 18, I was just freaking out the whole time. So it sounds like I was this amazing independent woman, but let me tell you, in practice, I was losing my mind, but I paid for it myself.
That's amazing.
So my mother did not want me to go. And, but then when I was like, but I worked for it and paid for it, she was a little like, what do I do?
Yeah.
So anyways, except for just worry for a year, and there were no cell phones, my friends, totally, you're just out there. So I got this degree, cultural anthropology, with a minor in theater that was theoretical theater. It was, reading plays, not even acting. And then I had this little bug in me that I think it was a storytelling thing, truly. Mm-hmm. I didn't think I understood stand-up as a form, and it is certainly not something I followed. I think actually, I'll just be very gendered division. I think a lot of young boys get together with their friends. They listen to comedy albums. I'm back in my day. Maybe now they watch specials. They talk about it. They have favorite comedians. It's like part of this whole boy ethos. And the girls did not do that. I didn't know any girls that did that. Reading, but it was so like Barbies and Anne of Green Gables. I mean, maybe once when I got to high school, there was a little bit of differentiation with the gothier kids when it came to music, but comedy, no.
So the girls weren't sitting around listening to Red Fox's albums?
No, not at all. Right. No one was reciting a, fallen comedian's famous acts or segments, the dentist, Noah's, all of that I would hear the boys do. None of the girls did that.
And you wanted it.
It's just totally different. I did, but I didn't know what it was, but I knew how to tell a funny story because that's what we did in our family. We told each other funny stories that had technically punchlines. They had payoffs. Mm-hmm. So I knew I wanted to do that. Also, I just told you about this crazy stuff that happened with my family. I was in a terrible car accident when I was a kid. I should have died, but I didn't. My friend died. And I think living with that story within you and processing it throughout your life, I still am exploring how that comes out. But if I say to someone that, and then I became a stand-up, they just make completely clear lines that join those two things. So maybe it was a little bit of that story to tell, but that always made me feel a little different. And it always made me feel like I had something to say, but I couldn't say it because the difference often silences you, right?
Right.
So I moved to Vancouver after my degree with no ideas what I was doing. And I volunteered at the comedy festival that they have in Vancouver as an usher, as just something to do. And clearly there was something in the back of my head that wanted to get in there. And all the other ushers were people that were trying to be stand-up comics. And we were all chatty, and they said, hey, there's this weekend workshop. This guy from Austin, Texas comes up and teaches us a stand-up class, and we love it. And that's how we're all beginning. You should take it. It's this weekend. And I thought, oh, I'm totally going to do that. But it was $300 and I didn't have the money. I had $300, but I think I had $340 in my bank account. And I thought, I can't afford it. So I had this plan, Andy, that I was going to go to the class. My idea was I'd go to the class and then they would ask for the money at the end. Who does that? But anyways, that's what I decided they would do.
Not Jews.
And that I would
you did grow up in
skip
Canada.
out. That I would skip out. That I would basically go to the bathroom 30 minutes before the end of the workshop and just leave, and so I wouldn't have to pay. That was my plan.
Wow. That's
but then
calculated.
I got there, and guess what? They asked for the money at the beginning. That's how it works with the class. Mm-hmm. Money first.
Let me guess, they've had people run out on them before.
Something. Yeah, and even when I was like, oh, can I just get it later? I didn't bring it. They went, yeah, there's an ATM down the street. You can just do it. Later can be now. So I went to the ATM and I took out $300 and I had $40 and change left in my bank account, and I handed it over. And I took this weekend workshop, which culminated with a performance on the Sunday night at the comedy club, which I didn't anticipate, which they told me that I should do. But I will just tell you this. I got on that stage. I had no material. Other people had, they'd done this before, so they had a little bit of idea of an act. But I didn't know. And so I just told, kind of some jokes I had told to my friends. I told a story that we would tell in the family. And the guy running it said, did you see that, everybody? Look, you can't take your eyes off her. You just want to watch her. And he was like, you've got the beginnings of something that is completely you can't learn. And so if you can learn how to do this, you're going to be in a good situation. No one has ever said anything that nice to me since 30 years later, but it stuck with me.
Wow.
In the beginning.
You know what's interesting? I did the exact same thing. Because I did.
Really?
Yeah, in the early 90s, I went to see I was going to Caroline's. I made a reservation.
Yes.
They said, which show you want to see? And I said, what shows do you have? And they go, well, there's the 8 o'clock, the 11 o'clock, and then there's a, amateur show at 6. And I was like, oh, I'll go see that. And It was just what you explained. And at the end, the guy who teaches the class goes, if anybody ever thought about doing stand-up comedy, you could take this class too. And I had always thought about doing stand-up comedy. And so I took the class. I did exactly the same thing. And at the end of the month, we did a show at Caroline's. But then I went on to do it for like 10 years. It was a lot of fun.
You did,
anyway,
yeah.
So who are your comedy...
Wait a second, Andy, do you still do stand-up?
No, but I'm threatening myself that I will get on a stage again soon.
Interesting.
Yeah, I love it.
Interesting.
So who were your early comedy inspirations and storytellers when you were coming up?
I think when I was really starting in Vancouver, Canada, I just looked at the headliners that would come to the club because I felt like first of all, other than like Eddie Murphy, I'm trying to think of who. I mean, there were so many people I liked, but I didn't relate to doing that. So I couldn't quite find my person. Like I loved, Eddie Murphy was huge at the time. I remember watching those specials, thought it was hilarious. I listened I remember in like another comedic friend, we listened to some Richard Pryor and I was like, oh, this is totally beyond anything, right? Yeah. So, but again, that's like, I'm not seeing myself there. I'm like starting to appreciate what it is to do the craft from the finest people on the planet. But as far as a woman, I couldn't really find it. I mean, Rita Rudner, maybe a little bit but she was so dry. Right? So unbelievably dry. Now I actually think that is closer to what I really like, but I just didn't have it then. I was much more still bouncy and kind of, Muppety like on stage. And that woman, barely moves a muscle as she's just delivering these lines. And Joan Rivers to me was a caricature. I didn't get it at all in the beginning. Then I got it later. So I would look at the other headliners that would come through the club, and there were a lot of them, and they were great. And there were also people that were, now they're even bigger, but then they were good, but they were also still figuring it out.
Right, they weren't legends yet.
They weren't legends yet, and also if I say these names, you don't even know them because they were at a certain time in Vancouver and in Canada, and Canadian entertainment is still so. Its own thing. There's only a few people that cross over in terms of a recognizable name. But there was this guy, Brent Butt, who ended up being like one of the biggest stars in Canada and made television shows and all kinds of stuff. There was this woman, Vivian Pfeiffer, who I loved. I will say when I moved to Toronto, that's when I saw like Mitch Hedberg would roll through. And actually, Mitch Hedberg ended up marrying Lynn Shawcroft, was a comic from Canada who was around Toronto. And I was actually at the club the night they met, which is kind of bizarre. And she was very, very funny and dry and kind of quirky. But when we saw Mitch Hedberg, again, that was not my style. And I was still newbie comic. I was like, what is this? And then I went back and found Stephen Wright. But I sort of reverse engineered all of my comedy touch points.
Hey,
so
do you ever wonder when they ship styrofoam what they pack it in? My favorite.
I was listening to I was listening to my favorite cassette tape, The Best of Music. I think one of my favorite Mitch Hedberg jokes, there's two that always roll through my brain. And one of the classic ones is, this shirt is dry clean only, which means it is dirty. Always loved that. And then he just, once you start going forward in stand-up, I felt like this was such a comment, and sometimes great comedians play to the comics. Once you go forward in stand-up and you talk to anyone that wants to do something with you, they know they'll never make real money off you from live performance, or at least they used to feel that way. So they would go like, well, do you have a screenplay? Do you have a pilot? What's your acting chops like? Can you sing? Do you mime? And he had a joke about like, being a comic, they always want you to do something else. It's like, what else do? I just do stand-up, because that's like going up to a chef and going, I love how you cook, but can you farm? Loved it. I think about that every day. It's such a comment, because as a comic, you were always asked if you could do something else, and you're like, isn't this enough for anyone?
But how do you make money?
I know that.
Isn't that usually the follow-up question?
mark.
I know you do comedy,
Yeah.
but how do you pay your bills? And so how would you define...
I don't. How about that?
Well, you're honest. At least you're honest. How would you define your persona? Or do you even believe in persona?
I wish, again, I think some people have a very defined persona, and then I think it would make it easier. Much like if my name fell in a easy category, that would be great. If my look, if I could get, I've always wanted that joke. You get on stage and you go, I look like a mixture of, whoever. Like, I can't even think of a good comparison right now. Like Humpty Dumpty and
Hasidic Jew.
Hasidic Jew or whatever. Everyone just dies laughing, right? But I've searched for that forever, and actually, because I think it's such an easy, quick thing, it always works. Maybe it's hacky, but I was saying this to Maria Bamford, one of my favorites now. Again, nothing like anything I could do, but her social commentary, I feel like, is like nobody else's. And I was saying to her, I wish I had the thing where people would just look at me and go like, oh, she looks like she just left a indie band as the bassist, or like aged out of whatever.
You kind of do.
Thank you. You like that one.
I do. You look like an indie bassist.
Thank you. And she said to me, why does it have to be just two things? Why can't it be five? Why can't you go up there and go, don't I kind of look like an aloe vera plant that mixed with a person who just left an indie band, also Animal from the Muppets? And I was like, only Maria Bamford would do that. Just take it and like shatter it into something more interesting. So, but I think my comedy, I hate saying things about this. I feel so arrogant. I think my comedy is smart. I think it's heady. And so sometimes I feel like people do not understand. If you're not ready for that, it's not going to be great. I don't play
That's
the
what
dumb
Gary
character.
Goldman always says. Like he talks about that. Like people are like, oh, you're so smart. Like the dummies don't get his stuff.
Dummies don't get my stuff. And they look at me just with wide eyes, like, I don't even understand what you're talking about. My entire university college degree, I hung out with very smart people who became academics. And all I wanted to be I wanted to be told I was smart, and I was told that I was funny. I got into comedy. All I wanted to be told is that I'm funny. I get told I'm smart. I can't find it, Andy. Can't find my place. So,
better than being called stupid.
True. But people love these very smart comics that play the dumb person. I think that is the way to do it. Truly. I can't do it, but I think that's the way to do it. It's like I'm going to pull one over on you. And I think I sometimes do my version of that because I'll just be like, you know what? I'm going to talk about sex or my body or a little bit of these taboo touch point things that I know you're going to be titillated by as I try to win you over. So I try to win you over with some of my more like obtuse commentary on
just the word obtuse right there. It's
there you
like,
go.
God, you're just ramming it down our throats, aren't you? I don't even know what. Hold on, I got to look up what obtuse means now. And so, I agree with all of that. And I think the persona thing is just, Tim Allen, he's the handyman. Roseanne Barr is the angry housewife. So there are those people that have like that kind of like TV marketable persona, but like, I don't know. I think you just get up on a stage and you be who you are, and you're funny or you're not funny,
Yeah, well, that is so true. But we live in the age of ultimate marketing.
Right.
And people just want to hear. I mean, I find, someone just goes, oh, you do stand-up? What kind of act do you have? And so I've actually taken to describing it like people describe a fine wine. I go, it's a little dry with a long finish. It's got a touch of acidity, but it's a real crowd pleaser.
You just described my sex life. When I was doing stand-up, I thought I had my big break. And I did it kind of like as a hobby. I had a day job. Or I guess everybody has a day job, whatever. But sure. I used to do stand-up in New York a lot back in the 90s. And I forget the guy's name, but he produced this like Tuesday night show and a Saturday night show. and he had like great comics, and I was just kind of starting out, but he thought I was funny, so he put me in it. And so I did that for a couple of years, and I did a Saturday night show, and then Sunday morning I get a message on my machine, just aged myself, and it was the owner. The owner, it was a husband and wife team, Carrie Hoffman, and I forget her name.
Oh yeah.
And so the wife, I forget her name, she left me a message and said, "Hey, we heard from our staff that you killed last night, and we want you to come in and audition for us for a regular spot." And I was like, "This is it. This is my break." And so they had me come in the next day, and I get there at like 10 o'clock in the morning, which I immediately thought, this is not good. 10 o'clock in the morning. And there was like 3 people there. And they said, "Okay, do 5 minutes." And I was like, "Where's the audience?
Oh my God.
Where's the audience?" They said, "No audience, just us." And I panicked. It's like,
oh yeah,
I was like,
no, it's impossible.
I needed that, the electricity of an audience. So
Absolutely.
I did my best, and I thought I did really well. And Carrie takes me out to the bar after that, puts his arm around me and goes, You're funny." And I was like, "Thanks." And he goes, "But you have no persona." And I said, "What?" He goes, "You have no," I didn't even know what a persona was. He goes, "Yeah, who are you?" He goes, "Tim Allen, the handyman, Roseanne." And he goes through the whole litany. He goes, "My wife and I, we produce TV shows. So I'm looking for someone who we can make a show around. So what's your show going to be about? Who are you? What kind of comic are you?" And I said, "Can I just be the comic who killed in your club last night?" He goes, "I got 1,000 of those." But you're right. It's all about marketing and
all about marketing.
and TV. But I'll never forget that, because over the years, like there was a period where I slaughtered myself. Like, "Why don't you have a persona?" And then I got to a point where I was like, "I don't need no fucking persona. My persona is that I can just get up on stage and make people laugh." Like, it's like I kind of like reconciled it. But I see the business side of it, though. Like, if you can do a sitcom every week for 22 episodes or whatever, like there's got to be more, I guess, than just somebody who's funny, right? So I guess maybe that was what he meant.
I think now you can just invent it, though, right? Like tomorrow you can literally say things that are vague, and it's just people just need to hear it. Like you can just be like, "Oh, I'm the city guy that now raises chickens," and people are like, "Oh, that's kind of cool. What's that about?"
Thanks. Hey, hold on. I'm writing that down. By the way, the teacher putting me under the desk and "you have no persona" totally fucked my whole life up. Those two things.
Yeah, exactly. That now we know. Now we know why we're here.
And so, all right. So you are like a quintessential New Yorker. So tell me.
Am I?
Yes, you are. Tell me what you love about New York, and then tell me what you don't love about New York.
The don't love right now is really long. I feel like this is a town that you go, it's like a mood ring. Like depending on where you are at, you either see like the darkness of it or you see amazing things. But I will tell you, did you ever do this thing? Do you have brothers or sisters, Andy?
I have 2 brothers.
Do you like them?
No.
Okay.
I'm just being honest. No, we're not close. We don't really speak. Oh, God, there goes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the teacher under the desk, the
okay. Let's get this
fucking
list going.
Dysfunctional family. Okay, 3 things right there.
I mean, I have a lot of brothers and sisters, as you know, and I only really speak to one of them. So I totally relate and understand. But sometimes when I walk through New York, I think about my sister in this case, but it could be anyone, about how much you would like them to experience this thing with you. Like some people do that, obviously, with their loved one, but my loved one also lives in New York. So I was a little early for my sets last night, and I got off. I was like, it's such a beautiful night. I'm just going to walk through Soho to the Village. And as I'm walking through Soho, and it's all the big fancy stores, but it's also little cafes with seats on the sidewalk, and people are out, and it's a beautiful night, and they're having glasses of wine, and they're chatting with their friends. And that environment is just so, it's the thing people travel here to see. It is so uplifting and so nice, and you feel like everything's going to be okay. And I think New York, inside and out, has nailed lighting. Nailed it. I feel like every restaurant and bar has figured out lighting. And probably because of the buildings and what have you. The lighting of New York itself, it's everywhere you go, it is flattering. It is the best lit place inside and out. I travel to places. I go into their bars. I'm like, what are you doing? What I know you're saving money with these bulbs. Let's turn it like, no one's thought about. Here, it's perfect. And I think a little bit is that it's a little on the dark side because of cockroaches, rats, and dust. So it's like, let's lower it down. That's me being a little, but I was hungry and I was like, oh, I'll just go to that little place and, sushi bar or whatever and have like a roll. And I'm sitting at this bar and people are coming in, some tourists. There are some like literal, contractors who are just finished their I guess shifts or whatever. They're done for the day working on whatever multi-million-dollar condo, and they're coming in just getting a Sapporo beer. And there are people on dates, and there's people that are obviously regulars. And I love that mix. I love sitting at a bar with people that are like working, and there's tourists, and there's, I love that. And it's a little friendly, and everyone's just a little chatty with each other. That's what I love.
It is the greatest city in the world for that and many other reasons. But you're speaking to a larger issue, which is like diversity. There's just people of all shapes, sizes, religions, politics.
And nobody cares. Nobody cares. Like in that moment where everyone has a $9 Sapporo in front of them, we're all the same.
And so you in your memoir, Screw Everyone, Sleeping My Way to Monogamy, which is a great title, you were quite refreshingly candid about your relationships and life choices.
Thank you.
Do you enjoy being that brutally honest and vulnerable, or was it kind of terrifying?
I didn't even know I was. And then someone was like, wow, I can't believe you're saying that stuff. And I was like, oh, well, should I be ashamed? I didn't know I should be ashamed. I just thought it was the world we live, like it's part of what we talk about. No. So I never thought about that.
Look, there are people, this is something that's fascinated me for so long, because there are those people that always say like too much information, but it's
right.
We live in a world with writers, right? And photographers and people who document life and history. How would we ever know about anything if everybody just kept their shit to themselves, right? Instead of like appreciating that there are those people that put themselves out there so that you can have a story to listen to, that you can have something to chew. Like people always go to like the weird place, like, like too much.
Right.
Weird.
And honestly, don't we live in a world of like, actually not enough information?
Exactly.
So much information and yet not enough, and getting worse. Yeah,
we're just getting fake. Now we're headed to a place where we're going to get a lot of fake information.
But that's what I found. It's already started.
1 million jobs were created last month. Unemployment rate negative 5%.
Yeah, then why does nobody have any money? I keep going anytime there's just like, oh, we've cut 1 million jobs here. I'm like, where's all that money going? Where is all that money going? Anyhow, I did, what I found from writing that book is that Americans are afraid of sex. That's what I found.
Really?
They like it to sell a beer, and they like it for marketing, on a certain, but to actually really talk about sex and to really, oh, God forbid you're a woman that enjoys it. Oh my God. God forbid you're a woman that didn't want to just get married as a virgin at 17. There is, I talked about it candidly from the point of view of, I am not ashamed. And then everyone was like, what does your mother think? It's like, well, I think she knows. And also, I'm a grown woman. Does anyone ask a man what their mother thinks? Oh, you had sex with 5 women? What does your mother think about that, Andy? It's like crazy, infantilizing. So I didn't know. I had no problem with being candid. I thought it made for a better story. I found from storytelling, from doing it over the years, actually, when you allow yourself to be brutally honest, and that usually means telling something where you are not the hero, where you are not in the best light, where you have to admit that you are not the best version of yourself and you did things and acted in ways that you're maybe a little embarrassed by, or it's hard to talk about, but it's the truth. That is when your audience is like, I'm with you. I know this.
Totally.
This is the human condition. This is what happens. This is the truth. This is what we don't want to admit. Now, if you just leave it there, that leaves everyone in, now we're still crafting story. So you can't leave everybody there and just be like, yeah, it's fucked up. Bye. You have to resolve it in whatever way. You have to learn from it. You have to you have to have some reflection or some larger idea of where it goes, because that's the craft of the story. So I actually think if more people were willing to not be the heroes of their stories, like those are my favorite stories. Don't be the hero of your memoir. I so much in storytelling is, I think, again, I'm on this thing right now about marketing, but I feel like the world has, maybe it's social media, has been told that everything has to be, perfect, or you were always great, or like I stood up to the bully and that person then apologized. That story happens 1 in a quadrillion. That's how you want it to go. It does not go that way. Something else happens, which is far more interesting.
Yeah, you're a great storyteller, and you and I met actually not that long ago, like
at storytelling.
A few weeks ago at the Nantucket Film Festival. We were both in their storytelling night, and you were off the charts, epically funny, in my opinion.
Oh, thank you.
Somebody
That's very nice.
Definitely needed to get to know and have on this podcast. But I'm very curious to know from your perspective, what makes a great storyteller?
I think, well, one, it can't be therapy, which I think sometimes people go, oh, great, I'm living through something hard right now, so I'll just talk about that. No. I mean, sure, in 5 years or whatever time it takes to process it. But, I do think it is vulnerability. I do think it is unlike stand-up. I don't think you can be vulnerable in stand-up. I think you can talk about something, a time you were vulnerable, but you can't be vulnerable in the moment during stand-up. It does not work, because I think the audience is looking for you to command there's just a different thing going on, different expectation. But I think in storytelling, the main thing is that if you can communicate to the audience that you emotionally needed something, like there's something in your story. There's a reason you're telling it. You emotionally needed something, whatever that was. And if you can clearly express it, it doesn't matter what the story is around it. I don't care if you're moving to a new town, trying to get laid, trying to get a glass of water. If you just tell me about why you are trying to get that in an emotional way, that connects your audience. And then they just want to root for you. They just want you to accomplish this. They are dying for you to root, because they feel it in themselves.
So I listened to 2 of your stories yesterday.
Oh boy. The 2 sad ones, right?
God,
Tragic.
They were awful.
Sorry.
No, I'm kidding. I listened to Jewish Santa.
Oh yeah, that's a fun one.
Which made me laugh out loud several times. And then I listened to The Accident. And that made me cry. And so in the span of like 15 minutes, you took me here, and then you took me there. And I think that's speaking exactly to what you just said.
Thanks.
And
those were early recordings too. Yeah, I feel like, it's interesting, because those were recordings that I've told those stories since, and in different ways. And those were very new record. Like, I was still new to these stories, and sometimes I use them as a touch point. And it's funny when you do something like now I think I would do it so much better, but there was a rawness in those recordings that I can't completely recreate, because you're still sort of discovering how you are feeling in that moment. And I do think there's some acting. I think a good actor can be a good storyteller, because I think it means a lot when you can place yourself back in that time.
But you definitely conveyed what was inside you in those moments, and you still do that. So that's the core of what you do. And so what shouldn't people do when they tell stories? What are the no's, the don'ts?
The number one is, I mean, and I'm sort of reiterating, but you can't go, I'm amazing, then something happened and challenged how amazing I am. But guess what? At the end, I'm amazing because there's no change. There has to be change. For it to actually be a story, beginning, middle, and end, it's got to, I mean, everyone learned this in grade school. Hasn't changed. That little hill of story structure, of a narrative structure, like where you're building up tension, then you get to the top, and then there's the release. So, but if I told a story of like, I'm amazing, but then one day something threatened for my amazingness, and it turns out I suck, we have a story. We're working. We got something. So I just feel like number one is you have to change. It doesn't have to be big change. It doesn't have to be like, I looked at my entire life differently. It can be very subtle. Matter of fact, I think those very subtle changes are what most of storytelling is.
But there's got to be a payoff, right? There doesn't necessarily have to be a punchline, because that means the story has to be funny. But there has to be, like in the accident, there has to be some other payoff where you are going in and reaching inside somebody and grabbing them. Like it just can't be like. I would imagine it's a real art form, isn't it, to tell a story?
Yeah, and I think in the most easy initial starts of doing it, you write the last line of literally, and then I realized, and fill it in. And so that's, and that might be where you're traveling towards. You might change whatever that is. And a lot of people literally say, and then I realized, and that's the end of their story. But we could do better than that. We can take the beginning of that out and say it in a more artful way. But yeah, there is some sort of knowledge game. There is it's great when there's an actual punchline. I mean, that's like, pennies from heaven.
Or multiple. Multiple. It's like multiple orgasms. I think actually multiple punchlines might even be better than multiple orgasms.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because at least at the end, there's laughter. Instead of, could you pass me a towel? So I think that's number one. And then just the, emotional connection, as I just mentioned. I think if you're going to talk about, sometimes I talk to someone and they're like, oh, I went through this they're smiling the whole way, with this terrible breakup. And oh my God, like I thought it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. And let me tell, and I'm like, why are you smiling? Why are you telling this to me? Like, were you sad at the time? Well, I was kind of sad. It's like, no. You pick an emotion. Like, I think someone in the Moth once said to me, and I thought it was very funny, you can't tell a story about your fourth favorite song. If you're going to tell a story about a song, it's your number one song.
Right.
If you're going to tell me something bad happened to you, you don't be like, it wasn't that bad. It's got to decide and stick to it.
Yeah. I think the mistake a lot of people make is they telegraph. So like they'll be like, hey, you want to hear a funny story?
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, oh my God, you just set the bar.
Here we go. No.
And no matter how funny it is, it's never going to be that funny. You just set it up way too high.
And then Carl never found his boat. And you're like, oh my God. What just happened to my life?
Our time here has flown by so fast. I would probably keep it going, but I have to actually do another interview shortly.
You have to do things.
But I do want to
life.
you mentioned the Moth. You do you're a frequent host of the Moth Story Slams in New York City. You have a podcast. You have a let me get my notes here. Your recent comedy special, Plant-Based Jokes, is streaming on YouTube, and you're recording a new 1-hour comedy special at the Comedy Cellar.
I am. I'm gonna on November 9th.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be at the. Yeah.
Go ahead, pitch it.
Yeah, it's at the Comedy Cellar on November 9th in the Village Underground, which is their big fun space. Taping an hour. It's going to be a whole thing, 2 shows.
So people could just call up and say, I want tickets, I want reservations to that show.
Yeah. You can go to the Comedy Cellar website. You can go to my website, ophiraeisenberg.com.
I'll be there.
Hey, I'm coming to your region.
My region?
I'm coming to your region.
What region are you talking about?
I'm coming to the Stissing Center in Pine Plains, New York on October 11th. hey, maybe you want to be part of it. It's a stand-up show.
Oh boy.
But I get a wine expert who picks out 4 wines that we taste one at a time, and I pair the wine with a stand-up act.
Interesting. Well, my only thought immediately is white. I could do white. Is there a Jew wine?
There is. It's called Manischewitz.
I'll do that. Oh, this is great. I can even do it. Whatever. We'll talk.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Great.
Ophira, from the Bible. This was a very fun conversation, and there's so much I didn't get to ask you, and I really want you to come back again soon because there really is so much. I have like a ton of questions here I didn't get to because this.
Andy, let's hang out. I love you.
And let's
You're
hang
great.
out. I love you too.
I feel like we've got some Old Testament vibes.
For shizzle, as the Jews say. Take care.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye. This episode of The Back Room was edited and produced by me, Andy Ostroy. It was co-edited and co-produced by Maddie Rosenberg and co-produced by Jen Hammoud. Our theme song was composed by Andrew Hollander, and our logo was designed by Cricket Langell. And special thanks to Patricia Wind. Please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, and also follow or subscribe. Until next time, keep your eyes on Washington, Hollywood, and your own backyards, and have a great week.